Greetings to everyone unashamed to exploit their progeny for clout. This is Proof of Pod, episode 12. Today I am joined by special guest co-host Tristan. Tristan, say hello to the people. His mom doesn't want his face to appear on camera. You're going to have to take my word for it. He's perfect. We are recording this episode on location at the site of my paternity leave. Today, I'm going to explain to you why the world will be a better place for you, me, Tristan, and everybody else with Bitcoin in it. I'm going to do it with 3 very common, simple scenarios, everyday stuff, and I'm going to do it in such a gentle and optimistic way that it won't even wake a sleeping baby. Hey, David and Tristan of the future here. We noticed that we missed a couple things, so we're going to pick those up. Right away, I wanted to mention that we're not only talking about how the future will be better with Bitcoin in it, but we're telling you how you can use your knowledge of Bitcoin to save money, make money, and profit, and have a better life in the present as well. Scenario 1, you go to the store and find that prices are higher than they were months, years, or decades ago. Scenario 2, you work for a publicly traded company, and even though most of your paycheck goes to daily expenses, you're able to save some of your money for investments. Scenario 3, you've saved up enough cash and credit to become a first-time home buyer. First, a quick word about today's unusual format. Just trying to turn an obstacle into a fun little challenge. Maybe this video will be terrible. Maybe this video will be great. And maybe Child Protective Services will show up at my door. But seriously, having a baby has me feeling optimistic and thinking about future generations. And also, at the time of recording, the 2024 election is about to happen. By the time I publish this video on Thursday, the election will be resolved. And, like a quarter of the country is going to be very happy, and a quarter of the country is going to be very upset, and 90% of the country is going to just be relieved that it's over. So, who knows, maybe we could use a quirky little video, a little bit of optimism in the cryptocurrency space right now. Okay, scenario 1, rising prices at the store. Since COVID, most people are painfully aware now of consumer inflation, but they don't know how bad a problem it is. They don't know how painful it really is. Okay, to illustrate, consider an apple. Let's say that right now you can buy a pound of apples for $2. In the future, X years from now, some number of years from now, maybe because of AI or whatever advancements in technology, agriculture, industry, the amount of labor and materials required to get a pound of apples to you in the store goes down by half. You might reasonably think that since the amount of labor and materials that are required to get the apple to the store to sell to you has been cut in half, the price would also be cut in half, down to $1 per pound. And you would probably think that's progress. I can buy more apples now with my paycheck. Unfortunately, the people in charge of the money printing presses consider that deflation, and they think that it's a bad thing. They're not especially concerned about apples. They're concerned about the price of all goods in the entire marketplace, the entire economy. So if we were expanding it to be something much broader than apples, the Federal Reserve, who controls the money printing, would make sure that instead of the price of this apple going down from $2 per pound to $1 per pound, they would instead make sure that it goes up 2% per year so that it doubles in price in about 35 years. And this is, not any kind of conspiracy or conjecture. This is their publicly stated policy. The Federal Reserve has 2 mandates, 2 goals stated in the law in 1977. One of these 2 goals is stable prices. And this 2% increase in prices is their version of stable. So instead of technology benefiting all of those of us who buy apples and everything else, and the price going down by half in some number of years, the Federal Reserve makes sure that the price goes up. The price doubles every 35 years. Well, how could Bitcoin possibly make the Apple market better in the future for Tristan and everybody else. Because there's nobody running the Bitcoin printing press, okay? There's nobody trying to keep prices going up. Prices of, material things in Bitcoin naturally, or kind of even unnaturally, go down. So in our example, where the cost to produce the apple has been cut in half, the cost to buy the apple in Bitcoin will probably be much less than half, actually. To put it as simply as possible, Bitcoin is the best solution we have right now for the problem of consumer inflation. Okay, we liked how that last segment ended. Bitcoin is the best way that humans have figured out so far to solve the problem of consumer inflation from fiat money. But we forgot to say how this knowledge can help you in the present. Well, by now, I think in 2024, you probably understand to not hold a bunch of dollars, in your savings any more than you have to. You're buying like certificates of deposit or whatever for a quarter point of interest. Obviously you're losing money by the time you actually spend that, right? But one of the best ways to reduce your exposure to the dollar is a mortgage. And I'm not a financial advisor, but I'll put in the notes a link to a video made years ago, which gives like 11 reasons why you should carry a big mortgage. And none of them are even about inflation or cryptocurrency. When the Federal Reserve cuts rates, it's a really good time to look into refinancing your house, getting a new mortgage, and then you'll actually be short the dollar in a way, as Warren Buffett said, that a mortgage is a great way to short the dollar. So when each dollar is worth less, since you have a big mortgage, it'll actually work in your favor because the real amount that you owe will be less, even if the nominal amount that you owe stays the same. Now, for scenario 2, let's picture your publicly traded company goes through some problems. Maybe it's worldwide, like the COVID pandemic, and they have to cut back. Maybe they have to cut salaries by 10%. Okay, so the most straightforward way to do that, lay off 10% of the workforce. But that can create negative effects across the economy to have every company affected by the COVID pandemic laying off 10% of their workers. So another solution would be if everybody at the company took a 10% pay cut. Fortunately, nobody really wants to do that. So what do? Well, what if we could give everybody at the company a 10% pay cut without them knowing? And this is the second part of the Federal Reserve's stated mandate, maintain full employment. So one way that they do this is, instead of allowing all these big companies to lay everyone off, they pump a bunch of money into the economy. This raises the nominal value of the company. It reduces the value of each dollar. And so when you compare your wages to the value of the company who is paying you, and you compare your wages to the value of the things that you can buy with them, you have been given a stealth pay cut. So this is one of the main ways that the Federal Reserve maintains full employment. Think about it. They say like they cut interest rates and print money to stimulate the economy. But what do those newly printed dollars do? Do they build more houses? Do they harvest food? Do they take a shift? Like they don't do anything, right? They're inert pieces of paper. What they do is they are a boon to the companies who get the freshly printed dollars at low interest rates, and they're a stealth pay cut for everybody down the line. Now, we don't see the consumer inflation for something like 18 months after all the money is printed, but you can see it in the asset inflation right away. That's why I set this scenario up where you're working for a publicly traded company, right? Because if you're able to save some of your money and you would invest that into the company that you work for or a company like it, you would be able to get less of that company. Your investment dollars have dipped significantly in their purchasing power right away. And eventually your purchasing power for the things that you buy at the store will also dip significantly. So how does Bitcoin make this problem better for Tristan and all future generations? Well, at some point, Bitcoin and things like it, forms of hard money or sound money, are going to be the standard. And so-called fiat money, which can be printed up on a whim, will not be the standard, okay? I don't know how far away that is. It might be a long way away. Right now, what you can do is you can use your knowledge of how these things work to keep your pay in real terms pretty stable, instead of just accepting that your real pay in nominal terms is stable and your real pay in real terms is going down. How do you do that? Well, it's a kind of a pain. You have to ask for, possibly demand, raises when these money printing cycles get going. You can't wait 18 months, 16 months, whatever it is, for consumer inflation to show up. You gotta start trying to get your nominal wages higher immediately when the money printing goes on, which is, by some definitions, what inflation actually is the creation of more money. I know it's not easy to get raises, and so when, these money printing rounds really get going, you have to look for other jobs where a rival company to your own has received a bunch of freshly printed dollars, and they're looking for ways to spend them. And one of the ways that they're looking to spend them is by attracting talent. And they know that the dollars are worth less. They know that they've got a bunch of them that have just been handed to them that they need to spend and get, value for. So sad truth is, when the money printing really ramps up, you have to ask for or demand raises at your job, and you have to apply to other jobs and look for ways to increase your nominal earnings in order to just, maintain your real earnings. All right. What if you are a first-time home buyer? Have you looked at the market lately? My sister is going through this right now. She also has just recently had a baby, somewhat late in life, as I have, and she's looking at houses right now, and the market is not good for buyers. There is so much that goes into what real estate costs, and I can't get into all of it, okay? But here is what we can talk about. The price of the house that you are going to buy is much higher than it otherwise would be, because there's a bunch of money printed. It's handed to, Goldman Sachs and whatever, and Goldman Sachs doesn't know what to do with all that money. They buy stocks, they buy bonds, they buy, whatever they can. And one of the things that they buy are houses and real estate. So this freshly printed money is bidding against you with the money that you earned to buy houses. So what Tristan and I are talking about here is asset inflation. Now, this is not part of the Federal Reserve's mandate. It's just a consequence of their action. But, some people think that it's political, where there's pressure from, let's say, the current sitting president on the Federal Reserve to print a bunch of money to inflate assets like the stock market and to make the GDP go up, at least in nominal terms. But it's not technically part of the Federal Reserve's mandate or what they say that they're trying to accomplish. If you are running an Airbnb and you're having a little bit of trouble filling it, part of the reason why you are having trouble filling it is because a lot of the freshly printed money, the last few years have gone into corporate Airbnbs. When you go to buy stocks, the price of the stocks are higher than they otherwise would be because a bunch of freshly printed money is bidding against you to buy those stocks. And you might say, well, David and Tristan, isn't it good when house prices go up? Isn't it good when stocks go up? And the answer is, it depends on why it's going up. If it's going up because the dollars being used to buy it are worth less, then that's not a good thing, right? If it goes up before you're able to buy it because, you're investing in your 401k or whatever, that is not good, right? Before you get a share of Alphabet for, $100, let's say, right? And a bunch of freshly printed money bids up the price, and now you can get a share for $200, okay? If nothing has improved about the Alphabet company, you are just paying more because your dollars are worth less. If your house price goes up because, the real estate is worth more for whatever reason, that's good. If the house price goes up because the dollars are worth less, there's a bunch of freshly printed money that's competing for real estate all over the country, all over the world, that's not good. If your house price goes up before you're able to become a first-time home buyer, it's very bad. If your house price goes up when you are a homeowner, but you are going to sell that house and get a new house at some other time, that's a wash. Your house price has gone up, and the price of the house that you're going to buy has gone up. In fact, it's probably a little, not in your favor, right? And finally, if you are near the end of your life and you are selling a house for the last time and the price has gone up, that's, probably a good thing. But you have to keep in mind that a lot of that price increase is not actually increased buying power for you. You bought your house for $100,000 30 years ago. You're selling it now for $200,000. You haven't doubled your buying power, right? You haven't doubled the value of your home. It's something less than that, because those dollars that you are getting now are worth much less than what they were 30 years ago. Also, you get charged capital gains on your nominal gains, right? Your in name only gains. So if you have a piece of real estate, for example, and you bought it for $100,000 and it doesn't grow in value or shrink in value, but you sell it for $200,000. So even though the property hasn't actually gained for you, the inflation makes it appear as though it has. And you're going to have to pay capital gains taxes on that $100,000 of profit that isn't even really profit. We can see this very clearly during the COVID pandemic. The price of stocks took a big dive, as you might expect, because people aren't going to work. Things are being shut down, right? The economy is suffering. So stock prices dive, Federal Reserve slashes interest rates, gets a bunch of fresh money out there. This fresh money is used to buy up those assets. The asset prices go back up. Now again, is that good? Is that bad? Well, picture you're somebody who sees that everything's going to get shut down and you sell your stocks early in 2020 and then the price drops, maybe, dropped quite a bit by the time you sell, and then a bunch of new money is printed up and the price goes back up. And now you want to take this money that you got from selling your stocks and you want to buy those stocks again. Now you can't get as much. You have lost some of your control over the assets of this country, of the world, of the economy, because you did what seemed like a prudent thing and sold in anticipation of the economy crashing, and you were punished for it because the Federal Reserve handed out a bunch of cheap dollars at just the perfect time for large institutions to buy up those stocks and restore the price. And it looks nice, it makes everybody feel like, oh, the economy's doing okay. But what really has happened is that a bunch of wealth was transferred, a bunch of ownership of real things, real companies, real estate, all that kind of stuff. A bunch of ownership was transferred from the people who maybe they panicked, maybe they prudently sold, who knows, but they sold as the price was going down, and the ownership of those things was transferred to the people who received the freshly printed dollars and bought the prices at the lowest levels and sent it coming back up. So how does Bitcoin fix this problem of asset inflation for future generations? Well, at some point, Bitcoin and other forms of hard money, sound money will be the standard, and the Federal Reserve and other central banks won't be able to print up trillions of dollars and hand it out to banks for them to buy assets and drive the prices up. I don't know how long that's going to be. It might never 100% arrive. But in the meantime, what you can do is you can buy Bitcoin. Right now, there's about 20 million Bitcoin, and there's only ever going to be 21 million max. And there's about 8 billion people in the world. That means each person's share of the total supply of Bitcoin is about 1/400th of a Bitcoin. As of recording, this is between $150 and $200. So for $200 US, you can get a little bit more than your share of all the Bitcoin in the world. You know what they say about real estate, right? It's the only thing they're not making more of, but they actually make more houses and office buildings and skyscrapers. They can't make more land, but they're not making more Bitcoin. Bitcoin now is really the only thing that they're not making more of. So when you get your share of the global Bitcoin for under $200 US, you will never have less than your fair share of the global Bitcoin. If you spend $2,000, you're going to have 10 people's worth of Bitcoin, right? Spend $20,000, you're going to have 100 people's worth of Bitcoin. And your share of the global Bitcoin will never decrease. Bitcoin is the only thing that they're not making more of. Okay, if you've stuck with me this far, I've given you 3 everyday scenarios and explained how Bitcoin will help solve these issues for future generations, and also how you can capitalize and take advantage of the situation today using Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and your knowledge of economics. Now, you might be asking, why Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin special? What about ETH? What about Litecoin? What about Sol? You might be asking, why the 21 million cap? You might be asking, will something replace Bitcoin? You might be asking, is Bitcoin secure? You might be asking, what about gold? What about bonds? What about stocks? What about quantum computing? What about AI? There's a million questions about all these things, and this is what my channel is devoted to. In fact, we've already tackled a lot of the subjects I just brought up. We don't necessarily have all the definitive answers, but we can help you understand them better. So please subscribe. Please tune in. If you don't like the 1 hour long, long form content videos that I make, we make about 4 shorts a week, which are, 1 minute snippets. You can tune in for those. And if something in the 1 minute snippet catches your attention, then you can watch some or all of the long form video. So for myself, David Bentley, and for my special co-host, Tristan, I'm signing off with the good news about Bitcoin. You can profit now and you can feel good about it because you can know that you are making the world a better place while you stack up those sats and realize those gains. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.